We're so glad you've joined us today for a story that will touch your heart and remind you of the power of perseverance and honor. Imagine a quiet morning at the Milwaukee VA office, where an 84-year-old man shuffles in, clutching a worn leather briefcase, only to be met with mockery and disdain from staff who label him a benefit seeker. But when a four-star general unexpectedly steps forward and salutes him by name, the entire room falls silent, and the story behind this astonishing moment has moved millions to tears. Before we uncover the truth behind this incredible encounter, please hit that subscribe button and comment below to let us know where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories of honor and recognition, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this powerful tale. Now, let's step into the heart of the Milwaukee VA office and meet the individuals whose lives intersected in a moment of profound justice. The scene unfolds in the bustling yet often impersonal environment of the Milwaukee Veterans Affairs Office, where the air carries the faint scent of paperwork and coffee, and the walls are lined with faded posters about benefits and services. Veterans of all ages sit in the waiting area, some flipping through magazines, others staring blankly ahead, each carrying their own burdens and stories. Among them on this particular day is Walter Gaines, an 84-year-old African-American veteran whose weathered face tells of a life marked by hardship and sacrifice. Dressed in a simple, worn coat that has seen better days, Walter moves slowly, his steps deliberate as he clutches a tattered leather briefcase filled with military papers, proof of a past he's fought to have recognized. Walter is no ordinary man. He's a survivor of the brutal Chosin Reservoir campaign during the Korean War, a member of the frozen Chosin who endured unimaginable conditions to protect his fellow Marines. 4. His goal is deeply personal: to restore his service recognition from the VA so he can be buried in a military cemetery, honoring not just himself, but the comrades who never made it home. As he enters the office, his eyes are tired but resolute, unaware that this visit will become a turning point in his long battle for acknowledgement. Behind the counter stands Troy Langley, a VA employee in his late 30s, whose demeanor reflects the weariness of bureaucratic routine. Troy is the embodiment of systemic indifference, a man who prioritizes procedure over personal stories, his goal to keep things by the book, regardless of individual circumstances. His crisp shirt and name tag contrast sharply with his dismissive attitude, his interactions often laced with impatience for those he deems time wasters. Also present is Alicia Mendez, a 26-year-old intern at the VA, whose youthful energy and compassionate spirit stand out in the sterile environment. Alicia's goal is to make a difference, to uncover the truth behind the veteran stories she encounters, and to fight for those who've been overlooked by the system. Her bright eyes and quick smile hide a fierce determination. And as she observes from the sidelines, she senses something unique in Walter's quiet dignity. Finally, there's General Langston Miller, a retired four-star general whose presence will soon change everything. Though not yet in the room, his goal is to confirm Walter's story and ensure he receives the honor he deserves. A mission rooted in a debt of gratitude from a frozen battlefield decades ago. As Walter approaches the counter, the stage is set for a clash of indifference, compassion, and long overdue recognition. Walter Gaines shuffles to the counter, his old briefcase clutched tightly, his voice soft but steady, as he explains his purpose-seeking recognition of his military service. But Troy Langley, with a roll of his eyes, cuts him off before he can finish, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You again. Didn't we already tell you you're not in the system?" Walter remains silent, his weathered face showing no reaction beyond the flicker of exhaustion in his eyes, though his grip on the briefcase tightens. Around him, the waiting room buzzes with whispers, a few other veterans and visitors chuckling under their breath, one muttering, "Some folks just don't know when to quit." The mockery stings, but Walter stands his ground, his dignity a quiet shield against the disdain. He's been here before, faced this rejection time and again, yet he returns, driven by a promise to himself and to the men he fought alongside at Chosin Reservoir, where he witnessed horrors and heroics that shaped his life. The room continues its hum of indifference, paperwork shuffling, phones ringing, as Walter waits for a chance to be heard, unaware that this moment of humiliation is only the beginning of a much larger story. The tension escalates as Walter returns to the VA office multiple times over the following weeks. Each visit met with the same cold dismissal from Troy and snickers from bystanders. On one particularly harsh day, Troy raises his voice for all to hear, his words cutting deeper than before. "If you keep showing up without documentation we can process, I'll have to report you for benefits fraud." The accusation echoes through the waiting area, drawing laughter from some in the crowd. A young man in a hoodie whispering to his friend, "Maybe next time, Grandpa." Walter lowers his head, his hands trembling slightly as they clutch his briefcase, the weight of the insult and the years of struggle bearing down on him. But in that moment of quiet defeat, Alicia Mendez, the young intern, watches from behind a nearby desk, her heart sinking at the injustice unfolding before her. She sees the pain in Walter's eyes, the faded military insignia on his briefcase, and something stirs within her, a resolve to act, to dig deeper, to ensure this elderly man isn't just another forgotten name in a broken system. Alicia steps forward, offering Walter a kind smile and a quiet word of encouragement, promising to look into his case, a small gesture that reignites a flicker of hope in his weary soul. The moment of truth arrives in a way no one could have anticipated, building to a climax that silences the room and rewrites Walter's story. Alicia, driven by compassion, spends late nights poring over archives, piecing together fragments of Walter's military history, uncovering records of his service with Fox Company 2-7 during the Korean War, a unit known for their heroic stand at Chosin Reservoir. Her research leads her to a stunning revelation. Walter once saved the life of a young officer during that brutal campaign, a man who would later rise to become General Langston Miller. Alicia reaches out to the retired general, and upon hearing Walter's name, Miller's voice trembles with emotion over the phone, confirming the story and insisting on immediate action to restore Walter's records. At a special recognition ceremony organized by Alicia at the VA office, the room is packed with staff, veterans, and local media, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. As Walter stands near the front, still holding his old briefcase, the doors open, and General Langston Miller enters, his presence commanding instant respect. He walks straight to Walter, his eyes filled with gratitude, and salutes him by name. "Walter Gaines, I stand here today because this man refused to leave me behind on that frozen hill in Korea." The general's voice carries through the room, recounting how Walter carried him to safety under enemy fire at Chosin Reservoir, a story echoing the raw courage of veterans like Fidel Gomez and Robert L. Gaines from similar accounts. Sonatri. A bronze plaque honoring Walter is unveiled, his name and service etched for all to see, and the room falls silent for a heartbeat before erupting in thunderous applause. Even Troy Langley, who once mocked Walter, stands frozen, his face a mask of shame, as the weight of his earlier words sinks in. The aftermath of this powerful moment leaves a lasting impact that extends far beyond the walls of the Milwaukee VA office. Walter Gaines is now recognized as a hero, his service record officially restored, ensuring he will be laid to rest with full military honors when the time comes. A final tribute to his sacrifice and to the comrades he lost. He returns to the VA often, not to plead for help, but to sit quietly before his bronze plaque, lost in memories of those frozen days at Chosin, honoring the fallen in his own silent way. His story is incorporated into educational tours at the VA, becoming a lesson in respect and compassion for staff and visitors alike, inspiring a renewed commitment to listen to veteran stories. Troy Langley, once the face of indifference, stands in silence at the ceremony, his earlier mockery replaced by a visible regret, a personal reckoning with the harm his words caused. The incident spreads through news outlets and social media, touching millions as a profound reminder of the honor and recognition owed to those who've served. Much like the stories of other Chosin veterans who've shared their journeys of survival and humility. Walter's quiet perseverance becomes a beacon, a call to action to right the wrongs faced by so many forgotten heroes. And that brings us to the essence of this deeply moving story. Have you ever witnessed or experienced injustice like Walter did, where perseverance and truth ultimately prevailed? What would you do if faced with a system that dismissed your worth or the worth of someone you cared about? We'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And let's start a conversation about resilience, honor, and the power of recognition. And if this story touched you, if you're inspired by tales of quiet courage and long overdue justice, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We're committed to bringing you narratives that uplift and challenge, and your support makes it all possible. Let's reflect a bit more on what unfolded at the Milwaukee VA office, because there's so much to unpack from this transformative moment. The setting itself, a government office meant to serve veterans, carries a weight of irony, as it became the stage for both dismissal and redemption. Walter Gaines, at 84, represented a generation of warriors whose sacrifices at places like Chosin Reservoir are often forgotten in the shuffle of bureaucracy, a theme echoed in accounts of other Korean War veterans like Fidel Gomez and Robert L. Gaines. Or his worn coat, his old briefcase, his quiet demeanor stood in stark contrast to the indifference of a system that failed to see his worth until forced to confront it. For many of us over 45, who may have known veterans or faced our own battles for recognition in various forms, Walter's story might resonate on a personal level. Perhaps you've seen a loved one struggle to be heard, or fought your own fight against a faceless system. Walter's perseverance mirrors those struggles, reminding us that dignity can endure even the harshest dismissal. Have you or someone you know faced a similar fight for acknowledgement? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let's consider Alicia Mendez's role, because her compassion was the catalyst for justice in this story. As a young intern, she could have easily looked the other way, accepting the status quo of Troy's dismissals as just part of the job. Instead, she chose to act, to dig into archives, to uncover Walter's history with Fox Company 2-7, a unit whose heroic stand at Chosin Reservoir saved countless lives under impossible odds. Her late-night research, her outreach to General Miller, her organization of the recognition ceremony, all stemmed from a belief that every veteran deserves to be seen. This echoes the spirit of advocacy seen in VA stories, where staff go beyond their roles to honor service, as highlighted in broader veteran support narratives. For those of us who've advocated for others or been lifted by someone's unexpected kindness, Alicia's actions might recall the power of one person's determination to right a wrong. How have you or someone you know made a difference in a seemingly small but impactful way? Share your experiences with us in the comments. Let's also think about General Langston Miller's intervention, because his presence turned a personal struggle into a public triumph. As a retired 4-star general, Miller carried the weight of authority, but it was his personal debt to Walter being saved at Chosin Reservoir that drove his actions. His salute, his words, "I stand here today because this man refused to leave me behind," echoed the raw emotion of reunions like Fidel Gomez's with a long-lost comrade, where past sacrifices resurface with profound gratitude. Miller's insistence on restoring Walter's records wasn't just bureaucratic. It was a repayment of a life debt, a theme resonant in military stories of bonds forged in battle. For many of us who've owed or been owed a debt of gratitude, whether in service or civilian life, this might bring to mind the enduring power of such connections. Have you ever repaid or received a life-changing act of gratitude? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Let's linger on Troy Langley's transformation, because his journey from mockery to shame adds a layer of human complexity to this narrative. Initially, Troy represented the cold face of bureaucracy, quick to dismiss Walter with taunts of benefits fraud, reflecting a systemic indifference often criticized in veteran care discussions. 5. His public accusation and the crowd's laughter were a low point, a stark contrast to the honor Walter deserved. Yet, at the ceremony, as General Miller spoke and the plaque was unveiled, Troy's silence and visible regret showed a personal reckoning, a moment of realizing the harm his words caused. This mirrors themes in stories where initial dismissal gives way to respect once truth emerges, as seen in broader narratives of veteran recognition. For those of us who've misjudged or been misjudged, this might recall the humbling process of confronting our errors. How have you learned from a moment of misjudgment? Share your reflections with us in the comments. Let's explore the broader impact of Walter's story, because its ripples extended far beyond the Milwaukee VA office. His recognition, the bronze plaque, and his frequent returns to sit before it as a tribute to his fallen comrades became a symbol of remembrance, much like the stories of chosen veterans who honor their past with humility. Incorporating his tale into VA educational tours transformed a personal victory into a public lesson, inspiring staff and visitors to approach veterans with greater respect and compassion. A shift echoed in VA initiatives to improve service. The story's viral spread, moving millions, reflects a societal hunger for narratives of justice for forgotten heroes, similar to the public response to long overdue identifications like that of CPL. John B. Miller, True. For us, especially those over 45 who've seen or advocated for change in how veterans are treated. This might prompt reflection on the power of storytelling to heal old wounds. When have you seen a story inspire systemic or personal change? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let's imagine for a moment what might have happened if Alicia hadn't intervened. If Walter's story had remained buried in bureaucracy. It's a painful thought, but worth considering. Without her research, Walter might have continued facing rejection, his briefcase of papers dismissed as irrelevant, his dream of military burial slipping away. He might have faded into obscurity, another veteran lost to a system overwhelmed by numbers, a fate shared by many as hinted in VA challenges. General Miller would never have known to step forward, and the plaque, the applause, the recognition would never have come. This hypothetical underscores the stakes of Alicia's compassion, the razor-thin line between forgotten sacrifice and celebrated honor. For those of us who've seen or experienced near misses with justice, this might recall the fragility of such outcomes. What would have guided your actions in Alicia's place? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Let's also reflect on Walter's quiet returns to the VA, because they carry a poignant weight. Sitting before his plaque, lost in memories of Chosin Reservoir, Walter honors not just his own service but the 75% of Fox Company who didn't return. A staggering loss, mirrored in accounts like Robert L. Gaines 3. His silence speaks of a brotherhood that endures beyond death, a theme resonant in stories of veterans like Fidel Gomez who reflect on survival with humility. For many of us who've known loss or carried memories of those gone, this might evoke the personal rituals we use to remember. How do you honor those you've lost or served with? We'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, because stories like Walter's remind us of the enduring fight for recognition and the power of compassion to right wrongs. Every detail, the worn briefcase, the mocking laughter, the general salute, the bronze plaque adds to a tapestry of resilience and honor. It challenges us to think about our own encounters with injustice, our own moments of standing firm or stepping up for others. What defines recognition for you? How do you fight for or grant it to those who deserve it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue exploring these profound questions together. And if you're moved by tales of perseverance and justice, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories that inspire and challenge. Your support keeps us sharing these powerful moments.